Welcome to the Theater of Others podcast. My name is Adam Marple, and I'm the co-artistic director of the Theater of Others. With the COVID-19 pandemic forcing a shutdown and reevaluation of space and gathering, we at the Theater of Others are thinking about what stories we need and how best we can share them. We believe space is psychology, and it informs the way in which an audience interacts and reacts to what is presented to them. We create uniquely theatrical events in bespoke sensory performance spaces crafted to encourage curiosity and grant the audience permission to commune with the play. Now that that space has moved online, how can we encourage interaction and action amongst an audience virtually? The Theater of Others produces plays that both welcome and challenge the audience. We are committed to international collaboration and are a laboratory that helps artists grow through intensive study of their craft. The Theater of Others creates a shared community of artists and audiences for the purpose of exploring the most profound issues of our lives and times. We believe the play watches the audience. The audience is necessary, and they are witness to what happens. And you get to be witness to us making that happen. The purpose of this podcast is to open up our process and let you in. We're peeling back the curtain, so to speak, and encouraging you to follow along, to ponder, prod, and question, to join us and criticize us if need be. Being a witness is no passive task, and it requires much from you. Are you up for the journey? On the podcast today from Melbourne, Australia, our co-artistic directors Budi Miller and myself in Cairo, Egypt. This podcast contains explicit language.
Hi, Adam.
Hi, Budi.
How you going?
I have lights. I have electricity.
I have lights too. Oh, I don't have. I've got Look, don't call shade.
I'm not
Shade.
calling shade.
You start with shade. Let's start with shade.
It was not shade. With shade. It was not shade for you. It was shade for Australia, who already has bad internet, and now they've got really bad electricity. I'm in Cairo.
I have been without electricity for 8 days.
You're really,
but I have internet. We got internet today.
You're really leaning into this sustainability stuff. I love it. You've taken it a level further than I normally would.
Well, yeah, we're so sustainable that we use our petrol, fueled generator to give us electricity.
Yeah, it's all a conspiracy. I see how it is.
But what's great though is look at my sofa. Like, this is the only place where I can podcast in the house because everything is like, plugged into one generator. So there's like extension cords everywhere.
I know.
Okay,
the audience hasn't seen all of your house. They've seen two rooms of your house, and now they get to see the living room. It's great.
Yes, so we'll do a tour. By the time I'm 60, you will have seen every crevice of my home.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
But we have to let them know what's going on because some of them might not know what the hell's going on. So we had a week ago, we had a 15-minute thunderstorm. 15 minutes. And it knocked down 2 transformers, thousands of trees, knocked out power for 500,000 homes in Victoria, Australia. And we're still without power.
That's a hell of a storm.
Yeah, 15 minutes, y'all. Miss Mother Nature, she is not feeling us. Okay.
Yeah,
she slapped the shit out of us and was like, "You think you know what's going on?" Yeah. No. That's exactly what she said. Swift. You like my t-shirt? Look at my t-shirt.
I do like your t-shirt. It's a pretty t-shirt. Where did you get that t-shirt from?
I got this t-shirt in Bali. It's the Theater of Others Bali t-shirt. Yes, you can only actually get one of these if you are a participant in the Theater of Others Bali Taksu Theater workshop.
Actually, they can't even get that one anymore because that was the 2023 one.
No.
We're going to have a 2024 one. It's exclusive to each workshop. So,
yes, they'll get the other, a different batik.
Exactly.
And it's actually almost full. We're still working off of the wait list, and it's almost full. It's insane. Yeah. So if you want to do it, y'all, get on the wait list. It's we're just picking down the wait list. We haven't even advertised it yet. So you're the first to know.
That's right. It's true. Seriously, hurry. Really, really hurry. You want to get on there.
That's what happens when you subscribe.
The first to know, exactly.
How's Cairo?
It's great. The weather's we're starting to feel the seasons change. It's lovely. It's not as cold anymore. I was on my roof working out, just coming in from here. It's lovely. I actually laid out and got a little sun. Can you see my nose got a little sun here. Yeah, I'm really enjoying spring. Spring's almost sprung early.
Wow, look at
Yeah.
you, you little sprite, little fairy, you.
Okay. Okay.
I'm just actually thinking about what happens when you work out. My favorite image is of you working out and dancing to your Beyonce music and training. That's like, I will never forget that. That's permanently embedded in my head. Like, you have a special boogie that you do when you work.
I was working out. I was working out to Beyonce in Bali while you were all going to do your Fitzmaurice. You can't break my soul. No, no, no. You can't break my soul.
Well, you're clearly a white boy that grew up in a black neighborhood.
That's right.
I guess Georgia is a full black neighborhood, isn't it?
Uh, yes. Well, Atlanta is, and I'm hoping Georgia is trending that way. It is. It's definitely a great city with a lot of history, and yeah, I'm very proud of where it's heading. At least Atlanta's heading that way. Georgia's going to take a little bit more time, but yes,
Well, you are registered to vote there, so we at least have you on our side.
there we go. Allyship.
Yes, that one white person.
It's just me holding it down for everybody. I get invited to the barbecue, to all the barbecues.
Baby.
Yeah,
That's
all
true. You
barbecues.
do get invited to all the barbecues.
I
Yes, you
like
do.
barbecue. I like barbecue, so it's great.
And you make a killer potato salad.
We're not going to talk about potato salad. We don't need to bring up potato salads anymore.
Well,
Only
black
longtime
folks,
listeners know. Only
we
longtime listeners know about potato salad.
look, but black folks, we like to come in pairs.
Oh, okay. That seems like a blanket statement, but okay.
But what?
Because
Because we
it was
got
a
one
blanket
person that brings a
statement.
sweet potato pie. Because we have one person that brings the sweet potato pie, and the other person that brings the potato salad.
Okay, yeah. Cool. Sure.
Or you bring the meat, and I bring the potato salad. There's always got to be a potato salad.
Yes.
Hold the phone.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Oh, wait 1 minute.
Yeah.
Do you know who throws down with the potato salad? Ladies and gentlemen, non-binary conforming individuals, you have got to meet this man who makes the most amazing potato salad. He makes me potato salad every summer. He go up in that kitchen in Maine. He get that potato. Oh, it's mashed potatoes.
Picking to say,
He makes good mashed potatoes. Mashed potatoes and potato salad is completely different.
he seemed a little confused where you were heading with that, but you turned it
Well,
back around.
because
Okay.
I just know every time I see this Negro, he's got some potato extravaganza to serve me. He knows how to serve the spuds. Yeah, right, exactly. But those mashed potatoes, I'm telling you, and what's good about them is they're like they're not fully creamy. They got a little chunk in them, so you're eating potatoes. You're not eating like a powdered mix, but you're eating real potatoes.
Yeah, I don't like a potato puree. I really like something that you can feel. It feels rustic. It feels, you can taste the chunk. You can taste the skin in the potato. It's nice.
Because you
R-
gotta
r-
always have something to hold on to.
oh yes, oh yes. Much to love. You gotta have something to love to hold on to.
Oh yes, Lord. Oh yes, Lord. Because there are only three types.
No, no, not on this podcast. Not on this podcast. Adam's already
Uh,
regretting this decision.
Ladies and gentlemen, non-binary conforming individuals, please welcome back to the podcast for our second round, our consummate scholar, Dr. Taylor Barfield. He's a dramaturg. He's a writer. He's an all-around theater man. He's a theater artist, y'all. He's from Baltimore. What's up? Represent. What's the holler for Baltimore? How y'all holler?
I stopped hollering years ago. My holler would be antiquated. It's it's well done. I am aged. It's done.
How do I used to holler?
Woo! I don't know.
And
just be out here hollering in the streets.
This boy served as the acting laboratory manager for the Yale Repertory Theater.
I was the literary manager.
The literary manager. This is the thing. This is where dyslexia comes in, because I'm reading your bio, and like I can't see this page that I'm trying to read, and I can't read the page I'm kind of trying to read. He was the literary manager at Yale Repertory Theater in New Haven, Connecticut, and literary manager at the Two Rivers Theater at the Red Bank, New Jersey. At the Red Bank, New Jersey. God, this is horrible. This is a horrible introduction. It's got to be one of the worst introductions I've ever given. And I probably love you more than anyone that's ever been on this podcast. That's because you're my brother. That's probably why it's such a bad.
It's because we're loose. That's what it is.
It's because you're my brother. It's because you're my brother. That's exactly why. Well, Taylor's currently working as a freelance dramaturg and consultant, working with the organizations such as the Guthrie. What's BMG?
It's Dutchman's music group. I consult on musical development using their music.
Oh, that's cool.
It's fun.
Portland Center Stage, and the August Wilson African American Cultural Center, and the Yale Repertory Theater. He gets around. This Negro gets around. But the most important thing is he's a doctor. And not only is he a famous person in my heart, in my mind, and in his scholarship, but he's going to be very famous to y'all because he's written the consummate text on Black theater, African American theater, and really it's going to be a required textbook for everyone. So, and I was like, when we were doing the book club and we decided to do Dutchman, I was like, I can't talk about this play without Taylor on this podcast. So I begged and pleaded him to come in and be here, and so we could talk about this play from, the Negro perspective on on Black History Month.
So
Adam,
so who's
we love you.
So who's bringing the sweet potato pie and who's bringing the potato salad?
I'll bring a sweet potato pie.
I'll bring the potato salad.
I gotta kill a sweet potato pie.
I'll figure out how to make potato salad for this podcast.
Well, you know how to work those spuds, so
look, I'm already halfway there.
So Taylor, what have we been up to? We should let them know because we got some things coming up too. So what's going on, Taylor Barfield?
Yes, we're building an acting training empire over there with the Encompass Collective. They create incredible training space for actors of color, emerging actors of color, all the way from pre-graduate actors to working actors who've been doing it for about 5, 10, 15 years. We welcome the folks. And right now we're preparing for our Encompass Collective Summer Retreat and The Visit. Those are 2 workshops, week-long workshops with Budi. Budi's going to come all the way from Australia to South Paris, Maine, in the woods. You've ever seen some people of color in the woods? We're scared for a hot second, but when we start to feel at home, we really start to we really get cooking. And South Paris, Maine is home to the Celebration Barn, run by also Dr. David Bruin,
who's also a friend of the pod, and he's been on the pod.
Yeah, indeed. So y'all remember. So yeah, we're working. We're working to we're currently raising funds to support scholarships for young actors who are going to be put through an intensive, put through the ringer, and it's a really beautiful time. I say to anybody who will listen to me talk is that it's really beautiful to enter a week knowing that every single actor that begins in the workshop is going to do some of their best work, some work that they don't even know that they could actually do by the end of the week. It's very rare that's the case.
Let's talk about our pedagogy, because there's ain't no one else doing it in the world like we doing it. Okay.
No. I mean, I think what's really unique. A part of what's really, I mean, of course, the most unique thing is you, and the space that you create for actor training. But a part of how our collaboration works is that
and it's a real collaboration, y'all. Taylor and I have been collaborating for the past 10 years, but exclusively for the past 3.
Yeah, and when we talk about collaboration, we're talking about in the wee hours of the morning.
We stayed up. Well, we stayed up until what, 4 o'clock in the morning.
4 o'clock in the morning, assigning scenes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why it happens every year.
Long? But why? Tell them why it takes so long.
It's the chemistry, right? You have to you shift one thing in the the chemistry, you have to redo all the equations. That's the science background coming rushing back to me. But it takes so long.
Okay, let's talk about your science background and putting things together. What's the equation? So what kind of materials are we working with? What are the actual tools that we're working with? The kind of actors we're working with?
So we're working with actors of the global majority, BIPOC actors, and we are only. What's unique about our pedagogy is that the plays that we use, the scenes that we use, are by BIPOC writers. Always. And so when we're assigning scenes, we have to deal with some of the things that everybody has to deal with, right? It's like, who do we have in the space, and who can we pair together to sort of needle at some of the pedagogical what would you call it? What we're trying to like push each actor toward, and what scene would be the best vehicle for that. And I think what's novel about our approach is that most scenes that are used in acting conservatories are by white writers, right?
Yeah. White
men, yes, very specifically, right? The Shakespeares, the George Bernard Shaws, Chekhov, yes, the Ibsens, and I love me all of those writers, but I think that for us, it's really important to allow the actors that we work with to really tap into something something ancestral, something that you tap into the words that were crafted for our bodies. Yeah. And it takes us, we're very intentional about that. We're very, we work very hard to make that happen.
Yeah.
Into the wee hours of the morning.
So if we're working on, for example, if we believe that, when we know that our people also have classical texts, our people also have heightened language, our people also have poetry, our people also have the same motherfucking types of given circumstances that they do in Chekhov. And at this day and age, and 2024, the writers that we have now, the current writers that we have now, know Chekhov better than Chekhov knew himself. So they can write inside, all around, upside down for our people and give the same, even better, opportunity to let the actors' bodies experience what those white people got to experience for their white audiences.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have nothing better to say other than that. You just really just like knocked it home. So I'm gonna.
Well, I think that's a great segue
to this black ass text that we're going to talk about today.
To this black ass text we're going to talk about. Adam.
Yeah. Yes.
I have a question for you, Adam. I have a question for you.
Sure.
What were your first impressions getting to read the play again? Because I'm sure it's been a while since you got to read since the last time you read this play.
It's been
given the work that we've done as a company, the relationship that you and I have, and the way the world is today, what were the pulls for you? What were the things that like popped out for you?
So again, we're talking about Dutchman by Amiri Baraka, which we have not really said as of yet, as our first book club, our first play actually that we've actually done, and very easily accessible for our audience. And it's like 31 pages long. They should definitely read this one.
Yes, you must. It's a constant text.
So reading this one again, interesting to read it knowing where it's going to go. Knowing what's going to happen, I was able to actually really look at it, dramaturgically, like investigating it, because the first half of it is just like most other plays. It's set up, exposition, creating character and relationship and atmosphere. With a sinister edge, with some clear sense that there is something hidden and something coming. Very sinister that way. And then, boom, explosion. So I was really interested in reading the first half of this and really picking up the seeds that he was kind of planting subtly. And just those little, what we would call now, microaggressions leading up to... what is the second scene? What is the post part of this play? Yeah, because I mean, if you have read this before, you know what's coming, and you know where it's got to get to. I was actually more fascinated with how does he get there in a way that does not seem out of place. Actually.
I love for me, when you use the term microaggressions, I think about when Maya Angelou talks about the paper cuts of insult. One paper cut, one paper cut, one paper cut, and all of a sudden you have an arm missing. Yeah, the paper cuts of assault. Mr. Dr. Barfield, what on your most recent read of this play, what came up for you?
Yeah. A couple of things, but to just sort of hop on your point about microaggressions, I think what's really beautiful about this play, I mean, horrifying, but beautiful in its construction about this play is how those microaggressions are not only, death by 1,000 cuts, but each cut gets a little bit bigger, and then a little bit bigger, and then a little bit bigger, and then all of a sudden it feels like, oh, that is a whole, double-bladed sword that is going through this through Clay, the one of the main characters, and then I think he really earns. It's a classic for a reason. I think he earns this explosive ending, which I won't really spoil at this point in the podcast. I'm sure that I'll spoil it later. But for me, I think what I really appreciated in this read of the play is how Baraka crafts environment, and what the environment does to how they act. The first scene actually feels. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, I'm getting ahead of myself because I want that first stage direction is my favorite part of the play, actually.
Agreed. It
tells you everything that you need to know in like 3 sentences, and I'm like, yeah, this is what this play is, and even if you don't know where it's gonna go, it tells you where you're gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but outside of that, that whole first scene actually feels very intimate.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's on, it's in a subway car. It's just the two of them, and really, it's not until scene two that we start getting these like voyeurs of
Mm-hmm.
people that and we've all been in a New York City subway.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird fucking place, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
you never know who's watching, who's might be lurking, who might have some ill intent, who probably is just trying to keep their eyelids open from working 24 hours. It's a strange little liminal space, and I think Baraka really captures what it's like to be having a really intense interaction with somebody while other people are watching. And that also helps to fuel the explosive ending that he gets us to.
Yeah, I love both of these comments. My takeoff of the most recent read of this play. One of the reasons why I selected this play was that it was in response to Adam's play, because Adam chose Waiting for Lefty,
Another
and
good
I
one.
was yeah, it is, it really is, and it's coming at American culture from a different lens, and it's coming at working class American culture from a different lens. And I am at that point, Taylor, and you know how I am, and you do too, Adam. I think, and everyone listens to the podcast. We listen. Y'all know how I am. My intersection is very clear. What were the black folks doing? I don't care about the white folks. Y'all keep telling me what the white folks. So my response to Waiting for Lefty, I was like, oh, we've got to do Dutchman, because it was as um, revolutionary as um, Waiting for Lefty, and it's Obie Award winning. And I just from and also the other thing was, when I had to perform Clay in college, I couldn't use what I was learning to play this role.
Mm.
And it still holds true that Meisner technique can't serve this play. And what's so beautifully uh, composed in this particular play is that he pushes up against the norm. He pushes up against what is palatable in this structure by taking the zoo story form and turning it inside out. Even making references inside of it with Baudelaire, that's like it's the same as in the zoo story. And then do y'all know who Baudelaire's woman was? Jean Duval, a Haitian woman that he had a relationship for like 2 decades. And they said, and people were like, "Oh, that was the downfall of Baudelaire." She's got, I think Manet painted a portrait of her. She's fucking incredible. So that alone, looking dramaturgically, looking at, juxtaposed where he's being teased as being called the Black Baudelaire. And we've got this taunting from this white woman. And then I also read, I really wanted to like go heavy dramaturgically, because I knew you'd be on here, Taylor, and I know we could really fly high on this one. And I think it's important, to go dramaturgically specifically for this play, because of the impact and that such a small play has had on the American theater.
Mm.
And so I've been reading a lot of his writing, and so with reading a lot of what he was writing during that time, and about his comments about uh, African music, the drums, talking about when the dialogue that's happening in African drums, that had become forbidden during slave times, was not because it wasn't like Morse code. It wasn't like Morse code. They were actually playing rhythmically, phonetically African words. So they were actually talking. The talking drum is talking. It wasn't like, oh, we get a certain so save our souls. No, they are literally articulating words with the drum, and how that transferred into the blues, and how the blues was picked up by white people, and then in order for it to have value, they called it art. And then it makes my brain flip into Camille Paglio, and Camille Paglio is talking about like art, like white men created art, so because they couldn't create themselves, so they created art. So like it just explodes. This play explodes. It's a powder keg of a time in America that it's like what are those things that you send it out to space, and like they'll find out it's a capsule. It's like a time capsule.
Yeah, time capsule. Yeah, and I think what's really fascinating about, I mean, there are plenty of things fascinating about Baraka, who goes by LeRoi Jones when at the time that he writes this play, right. Is that this play is first produced in 1964. As you said, it wins the Obie. First of all, it co-wins the Obie with Adrian Kennedy's Funny House of a Negro.
That's
which
right.
is like just a powerhouse of a double Obie winning year.
Which talks about what we were talking about, what was important to us.
From a black woman's perspective, right?
Exactly.
It gets even more specific than Dutchman than Baraka gets in Dutchman. You should do Funny House of a Negro or The Owl Answers. The Owl Answers was one of my favorite plays. It's one of my favorite plays ever. And how it just layers experiences, and also in a very different way than Baraka does in Dutchman, leads to another kind of another form of an explosive end. There's a lot of
Negro is a bigger identity in your face, like really looking at identity.
Really, it's a beautiful play. Let's just say that you should read it, listeners. You should read it.
You should definitely, definitely listen to it.
Be patient as you read it, because it's its own different kind of dramaturgical experience. But Baraka, what I find fascinating about Baraka is this is like, he's still early as a playwright. This is a very early play for Baraka.
It's his first play.
No, it's his first major play. It's obviously the first play that,
because I just know his poetry before this.
I can give you an answer to that before the end of the podcast. But he's primarily a poet at this point, but he's also a scholar, like you said. He writes this like seminal text, Blues People, in 1963, which goes deep into how the blues is not just beautiful music. It is so emblematic of Black experience in this country that is, so specific, and it's especially at that time, right? Most Black people in America that are in America in the 1960s are the descendants of slaves. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That's just the vast majority. It's a different kind of Black diaspora than is here right now. Right. It's much more worldwide at this point in 2024. But in 1964, we're talking like, this is an experience that unites many of us.
We're talking grandparents and fathers, and
right? Like,
we're slaves.
Yeah, people that we can talk to. Yeah. At the very least, are dealing with Jim Crow, Jim Crow laws, all sorts of sharecropping, all sorts of things.
Well, that was the other thing, Taylor. So when we talk about Baudelaire, for example, I always go, okay, what time period? Oh, slavery is still going on. My marker for life now is literally like pre-slavery, post-slavery. That's it. Where were the black people? What was happening to Black people at that time? So like when you look at the infatuation with Baudelaire's lifestyle and poetry, I'm just like, my people were enslaved during this time while he's squandering his inheritance and fetishizing a black woman.
Facts. And I'm jumping ahead, but I just saw finally I was late to the party, but I saw Pearly Victorious by Ossie Davis on Broadway. Beautiful, absolutely. I was having a whole good time. The entire time.
I'm gonna see it next week. 2 weeks.
No, Pearly closed, sadly. Sorry, I'm sorry, Budi.
Classic,
I'm sorry.
Classic.
You missed just a classic performance by Carrie Young. Carrie Young was like just out here, her physicality, her voice work, her comic timing. She was out here eating the whole meal. She ate all 3 meals in an hour and an hour and a half.
Come on.
And look, and Leslie Odom Jr. Look, it ain't just Hamilton. I'll tell you that much. It ain't just Hamilton.
Hey, come on now.
But that play set in the 1960s as well. And I encourage anybody to go read that play. And what's really startling about that play is that it's, even though it's set in the 1960s in Georgia, in a small town in Georgia, the conditions that this black community are facing are very similar to slavery. Very similar to slavery. It's the height of sharecropping, still in that little town in Georgia. So even though we talk about what are black people experiencing? What are the folk experiencing? Slavery or post-slavery? Mm-hmm. Post-slavery is in a lot of places is not much different than slavery time.
Come on now.
And I think when we translate it to what black men, black women, black gender nonconforming cousins are dealing with in the city as well, I think that's where we hit Baraka and the Dutchman.
Yeah, and what I love is that he's coming right out of the Beat era, so he's like this is the thing. It's like I have experienced what Clay experiences in this play,
because that's just true. We still do. We still experience it every day. On most days that I leave my house.
Yeah,
you at least get the small cut.
Yeah. And I think it's so beautiful how he archetypically places it with a liberal white woman that's 10 years older than a black student, a black male student. So there's it's just like, I mean, even pardon my French, y'all. Even when she comes out and calls him a nigger twice, that has happened to me.
Yes, it has.
Right? It's happened to me. With a liberal white woman thinking that she's being really cute and like woke.
I'm in a different space because I'm ethnically ambiguous. To pull a 1990s term,
you're Indonesian.
I'm everything. I am a brown man for everyone. What is your
intersection? Let them know what your intersection is.
So I'm half Black American and half Korean. Yeah. So nobody knows what I am. My race shifts depending on what community predominates whatever area I happen to be in.
True.
So in Jersey City, I'm Filipino, which is lovely. I have,
when you're in Bali, you're Balinese.
When I'm in Bali, I'm Balinese. But so I have a different experience, but I get called a lot of different things, a lot of different epithets depending on who's hating on whom when in my presence. Mm-hmm. So it's it's an experience that I think that many people of color have experienced. Is this liberal white individual coming in and thinking they're hip and thinking that this is a way to connect to somebody, and just gets comfortable and says calls somebody something that they aren't, you know.
And I love how it reveals just how intelligent Clay is,
Mm-hmm.
and how Clay is able to navigate in this space, because that's where the real artistry and skill structurally happens for me in this play, is the way that Clay is able to navigate in this space seemingly without being harmed.
Seemingly, right? But I think it's a little bit of a lot of things, right? And that Clay is able to hold so many contradictions, so many what is that? What does Walt Whitman say? Right? As we contain multitudes, because he is able to navigate these microaggressions. These microaggressions. This white woman coming in and all up in his space, and feeling like she can say whatever she wants to say. But there's also this like underlying sexual tension. He's like,
I'm so glad you said that. I was literally thinking that. I was he's like,
he's and look, he's a straight man.
He's a man.
He's a man. He's like, I guess we about to have sex. I guess we about to do this. I guess this is about to be a random encounter. Ooh.
Yeah.
And I have been there. I will say, I will, and that component of it, right? That racialized sexual component of it also plays, I think, a role in, he's able to navigate it well, but I think that sexual component, really, lends itself to just how much he decides to stick with, to roll with. Even in the stage directions, he's like, he pauses and then he decides to just take it as a joke. And I think a part of that is the underlying sexual tension.
100%. And I also am able to pick up his whole politic when he talks about if what Bessie Smith would. Do you think Bessie Smith would sing if she could kill?
Nah, she'd be chilling at the crib,
right? If she, and because the way he talks about, like, if we could kill the way y'all kill, we wouldn't need the art that you are saying we encompass. And I think for me, the metaphor of like the art of blackness, you know what I mean? The art of blackness wouldn't exist if we had the same equal opportunities.
Well, I mean, or a place to channel that rage. It reminds me of this poem, which I have written down.
Come on,
because I'm an old I'm an old person. But it's by Naira Wahid, and she writes in her collection Salt. If we wanted to, people of color could burn the world down for what we have experienced, are experiencing, but we don't. How stunningly beautiful that our sacred respect for the earth, for life, is deeper than our rage.
That's so true.
I feel it is, and so many of our great artists, like the thing that like imbues, and it goes back to Baraka's like deep understanding of what the blues is, right? Like so many black artists of color in general as well, but so many black artists, their work is infused with the rage and the pain of living in this in a world that is anti-black, that is actively trying to kill us.
So I have a question for Adam now, because this is interesting for me, because did you find that, because I'm just trying to think of like the people that are listening that may not have read the play, and it sounds like a fucking intense play. In this intensity, Adam, did you feel alienated?
Alienated. What do you mean by alienated?
Alienated in the sense of like, I'm thinking about the critiques that he received when the play first opened up from the play reviewers who were primarily white men, but not you, not like you, but just like but the way that they were talking about it was, I'm not setting you up, I promise. The way that the way that they were talking about it was, first they said, "Oh, it's just a knockoff of Albie." Then it's like, "Oh, it's just a racial rant." Black people should be put in a different light with more uh, 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 benevolence, for lack of a better word. And that's where I'm kind of like thinking of housing the term alienation, because they weren't even able to find a gaze of which to interact with the play.
I didn't read it in its historical context, which may be wrong. I'm literally reading it as now. Because I don't think there's a whole lot that actually needs to change in this play for it to still work. 100%. And I think you still understand nothing. Sadly, everything has changed and nothing has changed for this play. So it didn't alienate me insofar as it alienated the white theater critics of the 1960s who had no context, probably didn't know a person of African descent at all. Let alone been to the barbecue and done their research. So it didn't alienate me. The language, the story, the structure, nothing alienated me as a reader, as a hypothetical audience member. It wouldn't either. It wouldn't. Any more than any other kind of racial violence or violence in general would alienate me. It would alienate me in the fact of like, well, that's not real and simultaneously real at the same time. No, it made me question, obviously, my role as audience, but it also questioned my role as artist. I can't touch this play. I would not want to touch this play. It's not a play for me to have my say in. So again, all I have is the audience perspective, and knowing that I will most likely be an audience member that does not look like the audience that this is written for and about. But I also don't think that I would feel alienated in that respect either, because I'm perpetually putting myself in situations where I am the other, to be uncomfortable so that I can see other perspectives, so that I can see both points of view, so that I can grow as myself as an artist and as a person. So alienated, no. Is there an audience out there that can be alienated? Sure, certainly, because there are certainly people out there who don't want to hear certain things or hear historical truths or reckon with their past or their present or their future. So yeah.
And Taylor, yeah, come on, Taylor.
Hold on. Can we just give me 1 second? I feel like because that's such a great the people who don't want to reckon with their sins. That's one of the sexual tantalizations that happens right before the turn of the scene. Is Lula, who is the seducer, the white woman who is seducing Clay. She says, "And we'll pretend people cannot see you. That is the citizens, and that you are free of your own history, and I am free of my history. We'll pretend that we are both anonymous beauties smashing along through the city's entrails." And then she yells as loud as she can, "Groove." So there's this like sexual, there's this allure, there's this seduction technique in both, obviously the body to body, like we might we might belly rub, we might get a little, we might do a little, well, that might happen. But there's also this like seduction that I think assimilation like really tries to give to people of color and Black people specifically, right? Is like, if you can forget your history. Mm-hmm. You can forget the pain and the problems and the issues and all of the like ostracization of this history, and we can just be. But on the flip side, for her, it's like, we can forget all of the history of violence that has happened, that white America has perpetuated on Black America. We can forget all of that, and we can just like live in this nothing history sex time. That is going to be the title of my next album, Nothing History Sex Time. But we can live in that space, and I think a part of what Baraka is getting at, is needling at, is that's both the seduction of assimilation, but it's also a seduction that has actually no bottom to it. The bottom doesn't live. There's no there, and if you live in that seduction, you run the risk of getting caught slipping and losing your life.
I think, and that's a perfect, for all of you non-American listeners, that is what it feels like to be an African American in a world of a bottomless seduction. The American dream for an African American is a world of bottomless seduction.
With very, very few people. Very few people. We talk about like the one, right?
Yeah.
Like very few people get to live live with the prize of the seduction, and I would argue that most people don't. Right?
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, they feel like they are, right? If you have the money, the glitz, the glamour, but it really only takes one errant white person or one errant governmental body to send you tumbling back down to where this country feels you should be, and I think it's really important that to this play that Clay is a middle class guy. He's probably an upper middle class, well educated Black man, and it takes one woman. He's one of us, right? And it takes one white woman with ill intent to take his life.
Amen. And also just dealing with, the history of it. It's like white tears, black scars.
Mm-hmm.
So many of the lynchings that happened in our culture could have not happened if the white woman stood up and said, "No, it didn't happen.
It didn't go like that." Yeah. And this is a piece of the historical context that's so fascinating, and I think it permeates a lot of his work at this time. Is that Baraka is married to a white woman at this time?
Come on now,
he's married to Hattie Cohen, and you can feel this tension. They used to say that Baraka would talk Black but marry white. That was the criticism of Baraka at this time, during the time that he is one of the foremost writers of the Black arts movement, which is a Black nationalist movement. Let's return back to our African. Let's return to our African roots in both art and politics, right? Mm-hmm. And Baraka is wrestling with the fact that he is married and loves a white woman, and you can feel it. You can feel that tension here in this play, and you can feel that tension in a play that he writes in the same year, The Slave, which is also about a Black Black intellectual.
And this is the thing: if you go to any bookstore and you get the book, they come together.
Yeah, they come together. They're companion pieces.
Yeah.
In a way, it literally packaged that way. And what sits underneath both of these plays is just really the query that we still, I think what Adam says is true, right? It's so present. The query of how do we as Black people live in a society that is predominantly white.
Yeah.
And how do we build and survive? How do we build our own personhood, and how do we survive in that society?
Yeah. So we haven't talked about the title yet.
No.
So why the Dutchman?
You want me to just spill the beans?
Well, spill the beans and let's ride the train.
Let's literally ride the train. Yes, we should talk about the train of it, the train of it all, because it's so it sets the scene so well. But the Dutchman, I mean, it's a reference to Dutch slave ships. That would bring Africans from Africa to the United States and other places throughout the Western Hemisphere, as well as the Flying Dutchman. Right, this ship that carries spirits, from one place to another,
and you never leave. You're always on it,
and you never leave. You never leave, and I mean that's a part of the end, right? There's a sense of permanence that Baraka really needles at in his choice of setting. Can I read the opening stage direction?
Please. I love the opening stage direction. It's so beautiful. It's what every great script does. It puts you so deeply in the world that your brain softens and your heart opens.
You're like, oh shit. Oh yeah. The opening stage direction is in the flying underbelly of the city, steaming hot. And summer on top, outside, underground, the subway heaped in modern myth.
Come on.
What are we doing? That's a stage direction. That's a motherfucking stage direction right there. I mean you're like whoa, and what's the velocity of that train and the heat. Mm-hmm. The heat is what's so important for me. This might have gone a different way if it was a cold day.
Yeah. Exactly.
It might have been a little different. But that it's hot.
Air conditioning not working.
Air conditioner's not working. Violence happens in the heat. I'm from Baltimore. We say when the temperature gets high, the bullets start flying. That's and it's a sad truth. It's a sad truth, right? Yeah. There's something about heat that elicits violence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
wow! I just had a memory from that. I just had a childhood memory about that was when we were wild. In the summertime, it was hot and people were rowdy, so much more rowdy.
And there's a beauty to that, right? There's a beautiful side to that, right? There's there barbecues, there's family coming out, there are games being played, there's all this, but there's also an underside to it, right? There is a tint of potential violence.
Yeah.
And then modern myth. Sorry, I don't want to lose my train of thought. My train of thought is this modern myth is that everything, if you're reading this play as just two people on the subway, you're reading it wrong. It is a piece that lives in a space of modern myth. All 100%. Of these figures are greater than the individual. The individual that sits in that seat. And again, I think dramaturgically, this repetition and revision, shout out to Susan Lloyd Parks, that we have at the end really helps to illustrate how each of these figures actually stands in for a multitude of figures.
Which brings it to the spiritual. It just naturally happens. It's a reenactment of ritual when we get into metaphor and symbolism and myth. It's like it takes us outside of our everyday normal reality, which I think when you put it up against a zoo story, I think a zoo story is an intellectual problem, but the Dutchman is a metaphysical tragedy.
I buy that, and I feel like so much of Baraka's work at this time in the '60s, which is such a powder keg of a time, right, is about those metaphysics of the metaphysics of survival, and the metaphysics of psychic death, right? Of physical and psychic death. He writes this play that I would also encourage people to read. It's so short. It's shorter than this one. It's like 10 pages. But it's the most harrowing 10 pages I've ever read. Is his play Slave Ship.
Oh, not that's to be confused with The
Slave. Slave Ship from in 1967 is this like is his toe is just dipping his toe into an immersive, creating an immersive experience of what it would be like to be in a slave ship. And it rises out of that. It also becomes this like allegorical this allegorical piece of what happens when of the kinds of people the kinds of Black people that are on the other side, both positive and negative. But those opening, I love this stage. I love Baraka's stage directions. I love the stage direction. The stage directions that set the scene of slave ship, of what a slave ship is, are some of the most visceral, violent, brutalizing stage direction, like words made to be stage directions that I've ever read in my life. And I think it's so true to our small ability to conceive what the violence of that experience could have been.
Well, see, now that's all we can do. About putting Baraka up against Sarah Kane.
Hell yeah. It was Sarah Kane, who's so just so adept at finding words to articulate psychic and physical torture, literal torture. Baraka's right up there, and Slave Ship's right up there. Yeah,
and it's more than ever, especially with Baraka specifically, just because as a young Black male. He resonated so profoundly for me, and really putting into structure that a Black experience in America can only be realized through poetry, because it is that disjointed, and that and I think what works really well with what's his name, Jordan Peele's work, when you look at like the horror narrative that's attached to the Black experience, that like it's that abstract, like you jump over prepositions and and trying to find what it feels like and what it means to be in these spaces that have so many blank spots.
Yeah, and I would add music to that, right? As if poetry or music.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and dance.
And dance, yeah,
Yeah.
And that's what shows up in this final monologue. What critics called, this racial rant that happens at the end when Clay is pushed there. Now we all have a point, right? We all have a point.
Yes.
Where and it's different for all of us. Where sometimes you got to say some stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to say what it is, and you got to separate it from what it ain't, right?
Yeah, right.
And Clay gets there. Lula pushes Clay to that point, and a part of that, and I don't want to spoil it for the listeners and the readers out there, right? But a part of that rant are these musicians, right? We talked about Bessie Smith earlier. Charlie Parker is also there. It's like all of these musicians, all of these poets, all of these dancers, all of these Black artists are channeling all of this, all of it, right? The continuum of Black experience as filtered through their eyes and their body and their soul into their art, into their music, just into their art, and and white America loves that shit.
Well, so they love that shit. So the other thing, Taylor, is when you talk about what he's written about the European scale of music and the African structure of music, and the reason why the fifth and the seventh keys, the key jumps, don't exist in the African phrasing, and that's where our riffing comes from. That's where our sliding through the blues phrase comes from. It's because our scale is different than their scale, so we slide around it and move around it. That's literally where it comes. Literally comes from our people in that way, and that's where when he talks about like you can't ever understand the blues. Your body can't ever understand the blues, and that is a pure sense of appropriation. A white person singing blues. That's what he said. That's what he said.
It's true. I mean, it's true. You can appreciate it, but you can't understand it, right?
Yeah, you can appreciate it, but you can't understand it.
At that deep, visceral, metaphysical level, and I think that's also a part of why so much of the Black arts movement that Baraka was a part of, and other artists like Larry Neal, Ron Karenga, Sonia Sanchez, so much of that movement was actually about criticism. Yeah. Was actually about finding words to articulate what is unique to Black art. And a Black aesthetic, because the words that were coming from the critical apparatus of the time, which is predominantly white, the critical apparatus now is still predominantly white, but all those words actually weren't able and aren't able to fully capture what is happening aesthetically, artistically in Black art.
Yeah,
and the Black arts movement was like, well, we got to change that. We got to find words for ourselves.
Yeah, and then we get our Audrey Kennedys, then we get our Amiri Barakas, and it's like we get our Susan Lloyd Parks, and it's like the body just starts exploding when we take over the narrative again. When we find the ancient poetry that exists in ourselves and in our vowels and in our consonants and in our rhythms, and so this is what I love, and I think this is a really great segue we should take a break because we can keep going, but I love that, like, this for me as a Black man was my response to Waiting for Lefty. Because Waiting for Lefty is another really important text, right? So it's like my white brother is the one who brought that one, and I was like, I gotta. It's because also Waiting for Lefty has a really important place in Adam's life as an artist, So y'all need to read this play. Go ahead, Taylor.
I want to throw out, like, Waiting for Lefty is such a great choice because it's also so culturally specific, and it too is coming from a place of just of deep perspective, of deep cultural perspective, and that's a part of what makes it such a special play.
Yeah, and that was unheard of back then. People weren't talking about their feelings.
Not in that way.
No.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
No.
Got to hold stiff upper lip. Keep it in.
Yeah, exactly. So let's take a break and then come back with some provocations. How's that sound, boys?
I love it.
Okay.
Do it.
Ladies and gentlemen and non-binary conforming individuals, you're listening to the stereo sounds of JDB, Jack David Burmester. And we're back. Wow, Jack. Wow, way to set the mood, Jack. Wow. So we're at provocations now. Adam, can you remind Taylor what a provocation is?
Well, something that you want to leave us with. Obviously, we're in Dutchman land. We're in Amiri Baraka land. What else should they be reading or looking at? You've already said slave. You already said slave ship. What other works are out there that they need to be researching, looking into, so that they can see this play in a wider context? Or do you want to take them in a completely different direction and say, read something that was done last year, or here are the antecedents of him, or here are his descendants? Where do you want us to go, and what should we be looking at?
I mean, I think right now I want to uplift the work of a company called Classix. That's CLASSSIX, run by some incredible colleagues of mine, Owoye Timpo, AJ Mohammed, and Arminda Thomas. And they work tirelessly to excavate black classics, from something that people don't talk about to being really talked about as the classics that they are, speaking really needling into black experience in this country, and they have an incredible catalog of black writers, from William Wells Brown, who was the first Black American to write a play that we still have extant, all the way to more contemporary classics, from writers like Pearl Clegg, and of course August Wilson, Susan Laurie Parks. So I urge your listeners, the listeners listening to me talk right now, to go check out their website and find new black writers from all over the time to read. I would urge people to go read Pearly Victorious by Ossie Davis. I think that play, you know, so much. You know, The Dutchman is a very violent play. You know, there are violence. You know, a lot of plays. There are a lot of plays rooted in black pain. But Pearly Victorious is just fucking funny. It just is. It's not dishonest about the realities of living in the South in the United States for a Black American. But it's funny as hell. So I would encourage people to read that as well.
Oh, it's so good. That's so good. I think those. I'm gonna seal the deal on that one. I'm gonna say ditto.
And sorry. So
Yeah,
one thing that I want to throw out is I went to the classics catalog to refresh myself on what was Amiri Baraka's first play, which was which is an adaptation of his novel "The System of Dante's Hell" called Dante, which he wrote in 1961.
Yes, I know. Yes, I thought that was a poem. That's a play.
It's a play. It ends up being a play. Yes,
it's really good. It's beautiful. It's all in. It's because it's in verse.
Yeah, it's a play. It's a poem that becomes a play.
It's yeah. Read it. It's fantastic.
Sorry, Adam. I didn't mean to hop on your provocation.
Not at all. No provocation. We normally do a rating system of.
Oh yeah. I always forget too. I always forget to rate.
Jack has to remind us, but we rated on where do we think this is in theater world history, where do we think the relevance is, and our favorite moment. So scale of 1 to 5, just 5 stars is what we're doing. Theater world history, relevance, and favorite moment.
And we do it in
chapter, but favorite moment.
We have to do it at the same time.
Yeah,
we get the number at the same time. Ready?
Oh, a number. What's the scale?
1 to 5. 1 to 5.
What is the highest and what is the lowest?
Lowest is 1. Highest is 5.
Thank you kindly. Yes.
And what's the top?
I don't want the Baraka stay coming after me.
What's the topic? What's the topic? Adam. Category
by Amiri Baraka.
Category
theater world history.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. 5. Yeah, big time. Yeah. Okay, what's the next one?
Relevance. Current relevance.
3, 2, 1. 5.
5. Sadly, 5.
Right. 60 years ago, y'all. 60 years ago.
Yeah. It's tough. I feel like a lot of plays written in the 1960s and the 1990s are incredibly relevant to today. It's what I've been finding, just anecdotally. There's something about the tumult of those times that really meshes with the tumult of our time.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. Favorite moment.
Okay. Go ahead. You can go first, Taylor.
Oh, I mean, I've already waxed poetic about this damn stage direction. That's only a sentence and a half. But I'll say for me, my favorite moment is also the most harrowing. I think for me, the most emotionally devastating moment, which is not just the end, which I'm not going to spoil on this podcast, but the way in which Baraka resets the potential for violence. There becomes another a person that gets caught in Lula, that will end up being caught in Lula's web, and that's I think such a part of what's so brilliant about the structure of this play, and I quite like it.
That's good, Adam.
I'm also not going to reveal the end of the play, but
yeah, that's the end is fantastic.
Yeah, I don't even.
It's only 30 pages. Go ahead and read it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what you're waiting for, listeners. But I will say, as a director, when the conductor comes out, that whole like interchange just as a directing moment, just as a theatrical moment for me, it harkened back to. I love this movie and I hate this movie, Bamboozled. You ever see Bamboozled?
Yes,
yes.
Yeah. It just immediately I went to that and went like, it's one of the most devastating, funny, tragic, awful films I've ever seen, and that moment is encapsulated in just the conductor coming out for me. So, yeah,
one of my favorite moments is this section when Lula says, "Everything you say is wrong." Mock smile. That's what makes you so attractive. In that funny book jacket with all the buttons. More animated, taking hold of his jacket. What you've got that jacket and tie on in all this heat for? And why are you wearing a jacket and tie like that? Did your people ever burn witches or start revolutions over the price of tea? Boy, those narrow shoulder clothes come from a tradition you ought to feel oppressed by. A 3-button suit? What right do you have to be wearing a 3-button suit and striped tie? Your grandfather was a slave. He didn't go to Harvard. And he responds, "My grandfather was a night watchman." I have been in that situation in my life too many times to fucking tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where they assume oppression.
Just like, it's fine. I had a great childhood. Yeah.
Well, yeah. My dad has a master's from the University of Michigan for business.
So yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of my favorite moments because it's just like because it happens over and over and over to the point where you never get numb. Like you just start breathing. You get hotter and hotter. Like he gets everyone hot.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no escape. That's what's also beautiful about for anybody that's been trapped in a subway car, right? Mm-hmm. Like the subway, there's a delay or there's a switch issue. Like it gets extra hot. There's no escape.
Mm-hmm. So, how will we know that they did this at a Marple? But before you tell us, we have to give Taylor our provocation, and when you're done with your glockenspiel, he can give us his answer. Taylor, Adam, ask him.
Taylor. If you ask me what the definition of a word, I'm gonna leave the chat.
Well, Taylor, it was really great seeing you again. We are looking for a definition because we're looking to redefine a word. We don't think Miss Merriam-Webster does it any justice.
She's a shady bitch. She's wrong.
We think Miss Merriam-Webster, Mr. Cambridge, and Mr. Oxford are doing it dirty.
Dirty.
What is your definition of theater?
Oh. Oh. Hmm.
He's so pretty when he thinks.
Oh, thank you. I don't like this, but it's for me it's storytelling and living, breathing proximity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's the liveness for me is the thing. The liveness for me is the thing, and the story for me is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
That ultimately leads me to the word theater.
Mm-hmm.
But I also find, I taught theater history last year, which was the most harrowing experience of my life. I never want to do it again. Um, but I find what's really beautiful about words is that they continuously evolve. Like they're continuously moving. So, and our understanding of theater, I think, will continue to evolve and move forward. Not in a like, oh, now this is better kind of way. It'll just become deeper. It'll just become more. It'll gain more depth because our practices will be different. Our the way we approach theater will be different today or 20 years from now than they are today. So that's, even though today those are the words that I use to define theater, I both think that they're insufficient. They're mine and mine alone. But they're also insufficient they will become insufficient even if they're sufficient at this moment.
Fantastic. Adam, what's our definition that we've come up with so far? So Taylor can give feedback.
Yeah, like we're the arbiters of it, but we are taking this year to actually because
we got theater in our title.
Yeah, but you go and you look at the definition. The very
with an RE.
Yeah. Yes.
You go and you look at the definition. The very first thing that comes up is the building. Okay, so that's not it. The second thing that comes up is drama, the written form of drama. In no definition does it talk about what we understand to be the living, breathing thing. So we are trying to push this definition: the live, in-person human experience of phenomena that creates temporary alternate realities.
Temporary alternate realities.
Temporary's new. You added temporary.
No, it's been there.
No.
Yeah.
Has it?
I did add something new since we had Walton on in person. We didn't have in person.
Alternate reality.
Yes, you added. Yeah. Taylor?
I'd encourage y'all, because my time on this podcast is coming. This podcast episode is coming to an end. To find a way to like incorporate those kinds of theater works that are less about creating temporary alternative realities and more about creating sort of perforations and like our own lived reality. Those like this is I know white shit too, right? Hans Thies Lehmann's eruptions of the real in more post dramatic performances. I think those are also a part of like what makes the fabric of theater in our contemporary moment as well.
Yeah.
Do you think you're getting hung up on the word alternate or reality? Which one? I saw you
both.
Go. Okay.
Both. Together, right? I think it's them together. And I think that's a part of it, but I think that there's also another part of it. There's another part of it that sort of ripples underneath what our contemporary understanding of theater is today.
Note
so I'm yes anding you.
Yes, we are taking that on board. Taking that on board.
That's why we're doing this.
And Adam Marple, how will we know that these people are going to do all this that we're suggesting?
They're going to go to speakpipe.com/Theater of Others. Again, speakpipe.com/Theater of Others. Theater with an R-E. Theater of Others, all one word. Leave a 90-second voice message on there. We'll play it on air. We will also take emails at podcast@theaterofothers.com. And we are on Instagram, Facebook, and our website.
We on the gram, y'all. Sorry, I got... I'm sorry. I've got a child
Where'd your
here.
script go?
My child came in. It's like, why aren't you in bed? It's like, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Why aren't you in bed? Hey, baby.
So the light situation is messing up the circadian rhythms.
Yeah.
What do they need to do, Budi? What do they need to do?
They need to subscribe. Yeah, they do, baby, don't they? If they subscribe, you know what they'll do? They can get us every week because we get a podcast. We send them a podcast every week. Obama says you need to subscribe, y'all. And if you really like us, you can give us 5 stars, like my Uber driver. You give me 5 stars, I give you 5 stars. 5 stars. We all win. We all win, don't we, Obama? We all win. Obama says we're going to win. And if you really like us, you can leave us a comment and you say, when I watched the podcast the other day, Obama came and interrupted Budi. Oh, there you go. When I see, there you go, baby. And it was amazing. So I want to give them 5.6 stars, and that goes into our algorithm, and we become not the top 5% podcast of the world, but we become the top 1% podcast of the world. And you know what happens? Do you know what happens when that happens, Adam? You know who's coming on?
I do. Does Taylor know who comes on?
At 1%, what?
When we become 1%. You know what's coming?
You become the podcast Illuminati. What's going on?
We get a very special guest.
because we have a very special guest. You know who this guest is going to be? She's already agreed to being on the podcast.
Oprah. And you know when Oprah comes,
Winfrey.
Yeah. Is there other Oprahs?
Is there any other?
I don't know. People be naming their kids all sorts of things.
The Oprah will be on our podcast,
and then if
she
Oprah
will
comes,
then spur on
Beyonce. The Virgo.
Mm-hmm.
The Virgo.
Not to be confused with any other Beyonce.
Exactly, and we are, and you know Michelle Obama's going to come on.
Michelle Obama's next. After that,
she wants to meet my dog, Obama.
I mean, that's the 1% opens you up to a whole new podcasting level.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. We will be the Davos of podcasts.
I love you, boys. Oh, it's so good.
I love you too.
I will only stay up to 1 o'clock in the morning for you two.
I will only wake up at 6 a.m. for you.
Oh, Lord. Have mercy. Adam's the only one who had a normal time. The white man.
6 months.
Yeah, I was about to say this is white supremacy right here. I don't know what happened.
For 6 months, I was in a meeting at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. for the last 6 months. I'm glad to be at 2 p.m. It's fantastic again.
And this being Black History Month and everything.
Okay, exactly.
I can't help if the African continent's time zones are different than where you two are.
Oh, you're going to call the continent on us. Oh, you're going to one-up us on the continent.
I'm gonna take my black ass back to sleep.
Oh,
what about you?
I'm gonna take my black ass back to sleep as well with my dog. And for all of y'all, we'll be in your inbox next week. Bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Theater of Others podcast. Make sure to visit our website, theaterofothers.org, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. A special thank you to Purple Planet for the music you've heard. The Theater of Others creates a shared community of artists and audiences for the purposes of exploring the most profound issues of our lives and times. We believe the play watches the audience. The audience is necessary and they are witness to what happens. And you get to be witness to us making that happen. The purpose of this podcast is to open up our process and let you in. We're peeling back the curtain, so to speak, and encouraging you to follow along, to ponder, prod, and question. To join us and criticize us if need be. Being a witness is no passive task and requires much from you. Are you up for the journey? Be sure to tune in next week for our next journey.